If you're looking to grow on Instagram in 2026, then get in line because so am I. And in today's video, I'm going to tell you exactly how I'm going to achieve that so you can just steal my strategy and we can both grow together. By the way, this video is sponsored by ManyChat, more on them later. All right, let's start from the beginning. I've got my phone with me because I'm going to show you exactly how I come up with my new strategies. I do tend to change my approach to Instagram at least every 6 months because unfortunately, that's how quickly the platform moves. So annoying, I know. But this is usually the process that I go through, right? So I start by opening up the gram. Now, I feel like this is going to be a bit of a jump scare because I'm about to go into my professional dashboard and I've not been posting much recently. So it's not going to look how I want it to look, but that's okay. We're going to go into our professional dashboard because we want to have a look at our analytics. Now, something to keep in mind before you start diving into these numbers is what are you actually trying to achieve with your Instagram? This is one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they look at their analytics is they open it up and they're like, I want to see that my views are up, my interactions are up, and my followers are up. Like you want to be hitting every single mark, right? You want to be like an A-star student or whatever we use to grade kids nowadays. It's like numbers we use to grade kids now, isn't it? I don't know. I'm so old. Anyway, you want to be getting 10s across the board. But what we should actually be looking for is one key metric because really we should all be having a core primary objective to our Instagram channel and we should be measuring our success based on that objective. So for example, my objective on Instagram for the past 6 months has been to grow my audience because I got into a real rut. So I want to look at new followers first because that's the core metric that is aligned with that objective. If you are someone who wanted to focus on engagement, then you want to look at your interactions first. If you're someone who was focusing on reach and awareness, then you want to look at your views first, right? So try and figure out the metric that's most important to you and focus on that one first. So mine, as I mentioned, was new followers. So when you open up my new followers tab, you'll see some top line metrics. What we're focusing on here when it comes to our future strategy is our top content by follows. So I'm going to click on see all and I'm going to change the time frame to the last 6 months. Now, this is actually so funny to look at because I already know exactly what my future strategy should be for next year, just simply based on these numbers that I'm being shown. But what I'm basically looking at now is the top posts that help me grow my audience the most. So if you clicked on views, you'll be seeing the content that got the most views. And if you clicked on interactions, then you'll be seeing the content that got the most interactions. Can you see a bit of a trend with mine? Because I can. I mean, anytime I've done a series, my trend report series or my content to cash series, that has been the thing that's got me the most amount of followers. One of my very first trend reports that I ever did got me 14,000 followers. And if we click on this post further, it's going to give us more analytics. And what I find really interesting about this is the post at this point of looking has over 400,000 views. That's a lot of views. That's a huge amount of views. However, getting 14,000 followers off the back of 400,000 views is actually a huge profile conversion rate. Should I calculate what that actually is? That is a conversion rate of 3.4%, which means 3.4% of the people who see that reel go and follow me. And that's actually really, really healthy. So all of that to say that there's a clear pattern as to what content is performing well for me at the moment. And this is the information that I've kept in mind when it comes to formulating my strategy for 2026. Now, what I'm also going to do is something that a lot of people don't tend to know about is I'm actually going to reverse it and see the content that performed the worst when it came to growing my audience. So in order for me to do that, I'm going to filter this by reels, last 6 months, and then I'm going to sort by lowest. Okay, there we go. The reason why I had to filter it by reels is because otherwise you're going to see a bunch of stories appearing because stories don't usually get you follows. So therefore, that's going to be the first content that's going to appear when it comes to which content did not get you follows. Do you see what I'm saying? So here you can see the content that actually did not do the best for me. The first 3 that have popped up are actually trial reels. So keep in mind that that's going to appear as well. Also, we do have some reels in there that are super, super new. So, you know, when it comes to those, I'm probably just going to give it the benefit of the doubt and assume that it needs some time for the content to perform better. And as you scroll, you'll start to notice which content is getting you follows and which isn't. Now, what I find really useful about this is because I'm filtering it based on the last 6 months, all of this content reflects my new content style. So it's actually quite interesting to see which content isn't performing well, even though it's in this new style that has traditionally performed quite well for me. And what I'm learning from this is a few things. First of all, it's heavily dependent on the topic. So whenever I'm uploading a piece of content, which is about launching a business or about like a stat of the industry, it doesn't seem to land as well as my highly educational content, right? In addition to this, even though a lot of these clips are in the new style, the angles aren't quite as diverse as I would like them. Oh, I just realized I forgot to put my light up. I'm going to put my light on in the background. 1 minute. Was that necessary? I don't know. You tell me. Yeah, I'm basically just noticing that actually the style of my content in terms of switching the scenes and the angles super frequently is a huge reason why some content performs well in terms of follows and some don't. So this is all interesting information that I will keep a note of and I will use to inform my strategy. So let's talk about the foundations of my strategy and hopefully your strategy too. My main objective for 2026 is growth. I have set myself a bag, which is a big, hairy, audacious goal. And that goal is to reach 200,000 followers by the end of next year. That is quite a big goal for me because before this year, I was growing by 5 to 10,000 followers a year. This year, I gained just over 25,000, which is amazing. But it does require me to really keep that momentum going that I've already struggled to continue even since my very recent growth spurt. Now, when it comes to the strategy itself, I like to be able to summarize it in one line. Now, my strategy is to share 3 high value, high production reels per week and 1 either highly opinionated or behind the scenes carousel per week on my Instagram for the first 3 months of 2026. Now, let me break that down because that probably just sounds like an absolute word salad. The first thing to know about that strategy is that I mentioned posting 3 reels and 1 carousel. Now, in order for you to have a strong Instagram strategy, you too need to define which formats you want to be sharing on Instagram every week and how much content you want to be sharing in that format. I've decided to do 3 reels because reels have been a core growth driver for me so far. And the objective for 2026 is to grow, right? If your objective is to increase your engagement, you might actually want to focus on carousels because those are better for interactions and for reaching your existing audience. So just think about that when you're picking your desired format. In addition to 3 reels, I did specify 1 carousel per week as well. That's because whilst I do want to grow my audience, I still want to have a balance of kind of engagement-led content so that the people who I'm welcoming into my audience actually get to know me and I'm nurturing them. This is a really important and slightly more advanced thing to do with your Instagram, which is to focus on content that's achieving a few different things rather than focusing on just the one type. For me, in order for me to do that nurture content, I know that I either need to share something that is highly opinionated. So this is something where it's like a hot take and it really helps people understand who I am and what I stand for, or something that's quite personal and behind the scenes, because again, then I'm bringing people into my world and I'm helping them get to know me, right? On the flip side, my reels are going to be high value, high production, which makes me nervous because both of those things take a lot of time to achieve. But that has been what's performing well for me on my Instagram. And this is why it's so important to do the audit first, because you might hear this and think, I don't want to do any of that stuff. I don't want to do high value, high production reels. But if you do your audit, you might realize that you don't need to do that. Like there are so many creators out there, even in the same niche as me, who do the opposite style of content where it's really raw and there's not much editing or anything at all, but that content does really well for them. Do you know what I mean? It just depends what works for you and your audience. For me, it needs to be high production, which means I need to be filming on some great kit, probably my Osmo Pocket. I need to be experimenting with my angles. I need to be switching scenes between every point to keep the pacing up. And I need to be doing some incredible editing, of course, with the help of my editor, to ensure that the end result is super high production and polished. Now, the high value part means that each of my reels need to be the most valuable things you have ever seen in your life. Now, the value that I tend to share through my content is educational value, right? I tend to teach something. I often have a bit of a block when it comes to creating educational content on Instagram. And I think it's because I create so much long form content on here that sometimes when it gets to sharing content for Instagram, I'm like, haven't I said this already? Doesn't everyone already know this? So I end up not sharing information that's super valuable because I think everyone's bored of it. And then I'll see someone else post it and be like, oh, that's still really useful and I should have spoken about it. So not only do I need to push past that block, but I also need to ensure that the value that I'm sharing in my content is copyable. That's not a word. What's the word I'm looking for? Basically, I want people to be able to like copy and paste something from my content. So content that's done really well for me in the past is this one. And it's where I talk about how you could pitch to brands. And halfway through this piece of content, I share an actual script for pitching to brands. And I think that's part of the reason why the content performed so well, because it was like, oh, pause, screenshot that pitch deck, and I'm just going to use it for later. That's the level of value that I'm trying to provide here. Not just like, oh, that's interesting, I learned something, but like, I need to go take action off the back of this reel. It makes me nervous because I'm like, how am I going to do that 3 times a week? But I'm really going to try. So that's my overall strategy, right? We know what my goal is. We know how often I'm posting. We know which formats I'm posting, and we know roughly what I want to be posting about. The next step is actually to talk about the tactics. So these are the smaller things that you do which help you reach your goal. And I cannot talk about tactics without talking about ManyChat. Now, out of all of the tactics that I've used for the past 6 months to grow, ManyChat has been the one that's probably made the biggest difference relevance to the health of my channel. Like, I'm not even overstating that. If you're not familiar with my Instagram content already, then you might not know that in at least 50% of the posts that I share, I will include a call to action, such as comment the word pitch for a link to my pitch templates. And as a result of people commenting the word pitch, they will get sent a DM automatically from me with a link to purchase my pitch templates. The reason why I do that under so much of my content is because it massively increases my engagement, because I end up getting a lot of comments, but also it allows me to provide further value outside of Instagram to my audience. You've probably heard me share that tactic before, but hold up, because there's a new tactic in town. ManyChat have officially launched their follow to DM feature after announcing it at their virtual Instagram summit. This feature essentially allows you to automatically DM people who are following you. Now, this is major because it allows you to connect with people when they're the most engaged. So when they've seen your content, they love your content, they've followed you, it now allows you to connect with them by sending them an automated message straight away. Now, something you might not know about me and my previous tactics is that I've been known to send messages to new followers every now and again. Obviously, I've not been able to keep up with it over the years, but whenever I have done it, it's always been super well received. So the fact that we're now able to do that at scale is incredible. So you can use it to welcome new followers, to introduce yourself, to share resources, or to find out what they're interested in, which is super valuable for topic research. Now, it only works for new followers and it doesn't re-trigger if someone unfollows you and then follows you again. So you don't have to worry about that. If you want my advice, I think this is going to be best used to share a hyper-relevant freebie with your new followers. I might actually take it one step further and use it as a way to segment my audience. So I would essentially ask people what they're interested in. I'll use their answer to tag them so I can clearly see who from my audience is interested in which topic. And then I could follow up with a highly targeted freebie for my new follower. That way they can get some value from me, they can join my mailing list, and hopefully it will deepen and strengthen my relationship with them. Feel free to steal that strategy. Head to the link in my description for 30 days of ManyChat Pro so you can try it for yourself. Okay, let's talk about the tactics. This is personally one of my favorite parts, but also the part that a lot of people forget about. So let's just do a recap, right? Because at the top of your strategy, you need a goal. You need clearly to understand what you're trying to achieve and by when. Under that, you have your strategy. This is your one-liner when you talk about what you're going to share and when you're going to share it. Underneath that are the tactics. These are the small but mighty things that you do that really drive your Instagram channel and that help you see success. Without tactics, you are not going to get the most out of your strategy, okay? So make sure you have some of your own. Let's talk about the ones that I'm going to be using. Of course, I'm going to be using the ManyChat tactic that I just spoke about. So that strategy that I just shared when it came to welcoming new followers using their new feature. I'm also going to use their auto DM feature where people comment under a post and get sent a link automatically. The next tactic I'm calling the 5-5 rule. I just made it up. Do you like it? The idea is that I have a rule of 5 when it comes to my hooks. Now, we all know how important hooks are, especially for your reels. In fact, I have a whole video just dedicated to that subject. I'll link to it up here. The 5-5 rule is essentially forcing me to think about 5 different elements that appear on the screen within the first 5 seconds of my reels. So these elements could include a graphic, a photo, some text. I just want to have 5 different things happening on the screen within the first 5 seconds of my reels. It might even be that I've got text appearing on the screen, but they're in 2 different fonts. So I'd count that as 2. Do you see what I mean? It's basically a rough guide that's going to force me to ensure that the first 5 seconds of my videos are as visually engaging and hooky as possible. Another tactic I'm going to do is weekly trend downloads for me to use when I create my content. Now, this is new. Previously, I have tasked one of my team members to do these monthly trend downloads for me, where she basically scours Instagram and shows me what's working, what's not working, and where there are any content gaps within my niche. And she's so good at those. I'm thinking of upping the frequency of these to 1 every single week rather than 1 a month, just to ensure that I've got my ear to the ground and I'm really paying attention to what's working. A final tactic that I'm going to use is to do with typography, which I kind of mentioned before. That's the different fonts that appear on the screen. I want to get really creative with this. And again, the caveat that I have an editor who I work with. So when I say I really mean we, right? I want to really nail this with my editor. I want to be mixing up the fonts for the captions on my reels regularly and intentionally, like picking a specific font because it relates to the thing that I've said. Do you know what I mean? Like, I really want to take it to that point. And that's my Instagram strategy for 2026. Don't forget that if you want to use ManyChat's brand new feature where you can automatically DM new followers, you can get 30 days of ManyChat Pro by visiting the link in my description. If you feel like hanging around, I do recommend watching this video. I mentioned it previously, but it's essentially my deep dive of hooks. This is the video to watch if you are trying to level up your hooks on Instagram next year. I know I'm probably just saying that because it's my own content, but I'm telling you, it's good. Thanks so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one.